Herkese selamlar. Forflies Türkiye kanalına hoş geldiniz. Bu videoda sizlerle Dirk Hartig'le yaptığım röportajı paylaşmak istiyorum. Bu video genel olarak yani teknik analizden farklı olarak genel olarak enflasyon hakkında konuştuğumuz, aynı zamanda SP500 kripto paraların geleceği hakkında konuştuğumuz çok verimli bir röportaj oldu. Bu arada Dirk Hartig'den biraz bahsetmek istiyorum. Kendisi 25 yıllık bir trader. Çok farklı finansal borsalarda trade yapmış bir insan. Aynı zamanda da şu an benim Prime XBT adında çalıştığım bir borsa var. Bu borsayı zaten sizlere daha önce de söylemiştim. Orada müşterilerle ilgili bir departmanın yöneticisi olarak çalışıyor. Ve açıkçası ben bu röportajdan çok keyif aldım, hem de çok bilgilendim. Dolayısıyla sizlerle de paylaşmak istedim bu röportajı. Bu arada Prime XBT'nin de bahsedeyim birazcık kısaca. Prime XBT'de hem kripto borsası olarak iş yapabiliyorsunuz. Yani Bitcoin alım satım yapabiliyorsunuz, kaldıraçlı işlemler vesaire. Aynı zamanda da SP500'de kaldıraç kullanarak trade yapabiliyorsunuz. Onun haricinde de değerli madenler, platinum, altın, bakır gibi madenleri alıp satabiliyorsunuz. Aynı zamanda bu piyasalarda kaldıraçlı işlemler de yapabiliyorsunuz. Dolayısıyla ben Prime XBT'yi çok seviyorum. Açıklamadaki linkten de Prime XBT'ye de kayıt olabilirsiniz. İsterseniz şimdi röportajımıza geçebiliriz. Bu arada buradan Prime XBT'nin yöneticilerine teşekkür etmek istiyorum. Biliyorum ki bu videoyu izliyorsunuz. Dirk böyle röportajları sizlerle daha çok fazla yapmak istiyoruz. Aynı zamanda Türk takipçilerimiz de bu röportajdan çok fazla şey kazanacağını düşünüyorum. Dolayısıyla bana ulaştığınız zaman bu röportajı tabii ki istediğiniz zaman tekrarlayabiliriz. Videoya geçmeden de hatırlatayım. Kanala abone olup videoya like atarsanız çok mutlu olurum. Çünkü hem kanalın gelişmesine katkı sağlamış olursunuz, hem de açıkçası beni mutlu etmiş olursunuz ve daha çok insana ulaşmasını sağlamış olursunuz bu videoyu. Bu giriş kısmını artık daha fazla uzatmaya gerek yok. İsterseniz videoya geçebiliriz. Son kez de o $7.000 bonusu söylemeyi unuttum galiba. $7.000 bonus da şu şekilde işliyor. Benim linkimden kayıt olduğunuz zaman size $7.000 bir bakiye verecekler. Bu bakiyeyle istediğiniz gibi trade yapabiliyorsunuz. Yaptığınız trade'lerde elde ettiğiniz kazançlar da size kalacak. $7.000 çekemiyorsunuz ama $7.000'la çok güzel paralar kazanabilirsiniz. Dolayısıyla Prime XBT'ye şimdiden çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bu bonusu da umarım kullanırsınız. Bonusu kullanıp da kazandığınız paralardan da depremzedelere yardım etmenizi çok istiyorum arkadaşlar. İsterseniz videoya geçebiliriz. Selamlar Dirk. İlk başta enflasyon hakkında konuşmak istiyorum. Enflasyon hakkında ne düşünüyorsun? Ben bu soruyu grafik kullanarak cevap vermek istiyorum. Burada gördüğünüz gibi sarı çizgiler enflasyonu temsil ediyor. Mavi çizgi de SP500'ü temsil ediyor. Burada gördüğünüz gibi kırmızı çizgilerimiz var. Kırmızı çizgiler kesişme noktalarını işaretlemek için var bu tabloda. Enflasyon ne zaman %6'nın üzerine çıktıktan sonra tekrar aşağı düştüğünde ve SP500'ün grafiğiyle kesiştiğinde SP500 orada bir dip noktası yakalıyor. Bu geçmişte zaten çok kez görülmüş. Şu an grafikte gösterdiğim kısımda bile 3 tane böyle bir olay var. Şu anda aslında bunu yaşamak üzereyiz. Dolayısıyla neden bu sefer farklı olsun diye düşünüyorum ben. İkinci sorumda bu enflasyon rakamları bildiğiniz üzere geçtiğimiz seferlerde daha doğrusu daha yüksek seviyelere çıkmıştı. Şu an aslında bir geri çekilme yaşıyor olabilir miyiz enflasyonda ve ileriki aylarda daha yüksek enflasyonla karşılaşacak mıyız? Bunun hakkında düşüncelerin neler? Dirk'ün cevabı da bu konuda açıkçası kendisi bunun henüz bir sonuca ulaşmadığını düşünüyor. 2024 yılının ilk çeyreğinde bu sonuçları göreceğiz zaten. Şu an Fed'in verdiği kararlar da dünden yarına etkiler yaratmıyor. Birazcık daha uzun vadeli etkiler göreceğiz. Bunun için yorum yapmak için biraz erken olduğunu düşünüyor kendisi. Bu arada burada enflasyonun da ne olduğundan bahsetmek istiyorum. Enflasyon bazılarınız için yani biliyor olabilirsiniz ama bilmeyenleriniz içinden bahsedeyim. Enflasyon tüketicilerin tükettiği ürünlerdeki fiyatlardaki artışı temsil ediyor. Yani şu an enflasyon düşüşe geçtiği söyleniyor. En azından grafikler bunu gösteriyor. Ama biz bunun etkilerini henüz aldığımız gıdalarda, gittiğimiz marketlerde göremiyoruz. Çünkü ben en azından Türkiye'de yaşayan birisi olarak daha böyle fiyatlarda çok bir düşüş göremedim. Aynı şekilde Avrupa'da da böyle geçerli zaten. Bunun etkilerini görebilmemiz için, Fed'in verdiği kararların doğru olup olmadığını anlayabilmemiz için birazcık daha zamana ihtiyacımız var. Burada bir tane daha problemden bahsetmek istiyorum sizlere. Şu an daha doğrusu Fed'in problemi Amerika'daki işsizlik oranının hala düşüyor olması. Amerika'da işsizlik bu kadar kötü gündeme rağmen hala düşüyor ve tarihin belki en düşük noktalarında. Bunun enflasyon açısında kötü ne tarafı ne? Yani benim de aklıma geldi bunu çevirirken. Neden acaba bu işsizliğin düşmesi kötü bir şey? Söylenene göre eğer insanlar hala çalışabiliyorsa, marketlere gidebiliyorsa ve bir talep yaratabiliyorsa marketlerdeki fiyatlar için, yani ürünleri almak için bir talep varsa ürünlerin fiyatlarının aşağı düşmesi için henüz bir sebep yok. Bu da açıkçası biraz kötü bir şey enflasyonun aşağı düşmesi için. Zaten geçen hafta yaşadığımız düşüşün de sebebi buydu. Demek oluyor ki Fed'in birazcık daha iyi şeyler yapması gerekiyor bu konu hakkında. Yani işsizliği biraz arttırması gerekiyor ki fiyatlar aşağı düşsün, enflasyon biraz gerilesin. Ama bunlar genel olarak aslında bir boğa sezonunun tamamen öncülleri diyebilirim. Yani zaten bütün stok marketleri, yani hisse senetleri, borsa senetleri güzel haftalar yaşıyordu geçtiğimiz haftalarda. Bence açıkçası çok güzel alım fırsatları da doğdu. Yani tüketicilere, alım yapacak kişiler için güzel alım fırsatlarının doğması, bir boğa sezonunun yaşanması için önemli olan noktalardan birisi. Böyle bir fırsat vermeden de bir boğa sezonu beklemek açıkçası marketlerde çok mantıklı olmuyor. Dolayısıyla bir boğa sezonu geliyor arkadaşlar. Ben açıkçası buna inanıyorum. Dirk Hartig de buna inanıyor. Şimdi sizlere burada 2018 ayı sezonunu göstermek istiyorum. Çünkü oradan çıkarmamız gereken dersler olduğunu düşünüyorum. 2018'de gördüğünüz gibi 3000 dolar seviyesinde çok uzun süre aslında takılmıştık. Yaklaşık 4,5-5 aylık bir takılma yaşamıştık. Hatta o grafiği de açarsam burada daha net bir şekilde görebilirsiniz. Burada yani bir tane boğa sezonunun yaşanması için bildiğiniz üzere insanlara bir alım fırsatı vermeniz gerekiyor. Ve bir alım yapma periyoduna ihtiyacınız var. Yani bir süre boyunca fiyatların aşağılarda seyretmesi gerekiyor ki insanlar, yani kerizler silkelensin, yeni piyasaya girecek zeki insanlara da güzel bir fırsat versin. Ben şu an bunu yaşadığımızı düşünüyorum. 2018'de bunu 5 ay yaşamış olsak bile şu an yaklaşık olarak 120 gündür bu en dip noktalarda geziyoruz. 120 günde bana açıkçası, yani şu an bu mouse'la çizdiğim noktadaki bölge yeterli gibi gözüküyor. Çünkü bildiğiniz üzere çok dik bir iniş yaptık. Yani bu ay sezonu açıkçası bence beklediğimden daha hızlı bir çöküş yaşadı Bitcoin'de. Bunda tabii ki enflasyondaki, yani genel olarak makroekonomideki kötü etkenler de buna dahil oldu. Bir sürü Fed, yani enflasyon çok fazla arttı. Pandeminin sonrasındaki ekonomik durgunluk buna etkiledi. Aynı zamanda kriptodaki büyüdüğü için kriptoda daha fazla spekülasyon yapıldı. FTX olayları bunlardan sadece birisiydi. Luna çöküşünü yaşamıştık geçen sene Mayıs aylarında, bunu da hatırlıyorsunuz. Bunların hepsi tabii ki etkili oldu. Ama bence son noktalara kadar ulaştık. Dolayısıyla orada bir dip noktası oluşturmuş olmamız bana çok muhtemel geliyor. Bana kalırsa bir dip noktası oluşturmuş olmamız tabii ki muhtemel Sami. Ama burada dikkat etmemiz gereken şey bundan sonraki oluşturacağımız dip noktasının bir önceki dip noktasından yukarıda olması. Çünkü 2018'de de görmüştünüz. Bitcoin çok hızlı bir şekilde %30, %40, belki %50 bir pump yaşamıştı. Daha sonrasında tekrar aşağısına düşmüştü bir önceki dip seviyesinin. Burada onun olmamasını istiyorum. Ben yani olmamasını umut ediyorum. Çünkü tekrar 16 bin doların altında bir seviye açarsak, bir dip noktası oluşturursak düşüş trendinin devam ettiğini anlamına gelecek bu olay. Dolayısıyla bizim ne olursa olsun tekrar 16 bin, 17 bin dolar bandının altına düşmememiz gerekiyor. Ama 20 bin dolara düşsek bile açıkçası gayet normal olur ve Bitcoin hala yükseliş trendinde devam ediyor olur. Burada halving'den bahsetmek istiyorum. Bitcoin'deki halving şu demek oluyor. Halving işleminden sonra Bitcoin'de bu arada bu tarihler çok önceden belirlenmiş. Yani blok zinciri ilk kurulurken belirlenmiş tarihler bunlar. Bu tarihlerde Bitcoin'deki kazma zorluğu artırılıyor. Yani bir Bitcoin çıkarmak için gereken enerji daha fazla oluyor. Bu da ne demek oluyor diye sorarsanız Bitcoin'in fiyatlarının artışına denk geliyor. Bir halving'den sonra Bitcoin'in fiyatının artmama ihtimali yok ve onun öncesinde çok güzel alım fırsatları oluyor. Grafikte de gördüğünüz gibi bu bir halving'den 500 gün önce her zaman şu an Bitcoin tarihinde çok güzel bir alım fırsatı olmuş ve şu an tekrar o dönemdeyiz. Dolayısıyla şu an bir tane, nasıl diyeyim, alım fırsatı olabilir. Yani Bitcoin'de uzun vadeli yatırım yapmayı düşünüyorsanız bana açıkçası mantıklı geliyor. Bu konuda tabii ki finansal tavsiye vermiyorum ama siz de bunu birazcık araştırabilirsiniz ve uzun vadeli Bitcoin'in ne olacağını inanıyorsanız, yani Bitcoin'e genel olarak güveniyorsanız şu an alım yapmak için çok güzel bir zamandayız diyebilirim. Bu da beni aslında tekrar bir şey noktasına getiriyor. Bitcoin'de bazı insanlar çok fazla günlük grafiğe bakıyor. Çok fazla 4 saatlik grafiğe, çok fazla haftalık grafiğe bakıyor. Birazcık daha uzun vadeli düşünmek istiyorsanız, yani paranızı, nasıl diyeyim, al-sat trader olarak değil de genel olarak hodler olarak kullanıyorsanız bence aylık grafikten başka grafiklere bakmak ya da genel olarak uzun vadeli grafikten başka grafiklere bakmak kafanızı karıştırabilir. Dolayısıyla Bitcoin'e bir gün, yani genel olarak güveniyorsanız, genel olarak ne olacağına inanıyorsanız, Bitcoin'deki bu finansal özgürlüğe inanıyorsanız Bitcoin'de günlük grafik ve 4 saatlik grafikte çok fazla zaman geçirmeyin. Bence logaritmik grafikte, aylık grafikte analizlerinizi yaparsanız sizin kafanız daha az karışır. Bunu tekrar hatırlatmak istedim. Teşekkürler Dirk sorun cevabın için. Bana da mantıklı geliyor ama burada kafama takılan başka bir şey daha var. O da bildiğin üzere Fed hala faizleri arttırıyor. Ama senin dediğine göre, yani bu videodan önce konuştuğumuza göre Q3 yani 3. çeyrek ve 4. çeyrekte Fed'in artık faizleri arttırmayı bitirip hatta düşürmeye başlayacağını düşünüyorsun. Ve bu aslında çok güzel bir şey olur eğer gerçekleşirse, ama buradaki eğer kelimesi gerçekten çok önemli. Çünkü eğer düşürmezse dolar hala güç kazanmaya devam edebilir. Bu da tabii ki Bitcoin ve kripto paraları etkileyebilir. Bu konudaki düşüncelerin neler? Burada açıkçası genel olarak Fed'in tavırlarından bahsetmek istiyorum. Aslında dünyanın ekonomisinin tavırlarından bahsetmek istiyorum. Bir enflasyon yükselirken bildiğiniz üzere çok hızlı yükseliyor ve açıkçası yani Fed de buna karşı hızlı önlemler alıyor. Bu grafikte de görebiliyorsunuz zaten zigzakları. Yani enflasyon ne kadar hızlı çıkıyorsa da o kadar şekilde hızlı iniyor. Yani Fed bir kere faizleri düşürmeye başladığı zaman, enflasyondaki bu yani inişin başladığını gördüğünde faizleri düşürmeye başladığı zaman siz de göreceksiniz ki enflasyon çıktığı hızla geri inecek. Bunun sebebi de aslında ilk dünya ülkelerinin, yani Avrupa, Amerika, Rusya gibi ülkelerin bu enflasyonla yani daha fazla sürdürülebilir olmaması. Şu an GDP'lerinin borçlarına oranı %100'den daha fazla. Bu da aslında nasıl diyeyim, daha fazla borçları var genel olarak GDP'lerinden. Bu da çok kötü bir şey. Enflasyon bunu tetikliyor, daha fazla artırıyor. Dolayısıyla bu enflasyonun düşmesi lazım. Çünkü bir sonraki krizde gerçekten çok fazla yara alabilir dünya ekonomisi ve bu bir sonraki krizde bence açıkçası çok yakın. Ne zaman nasıl gerçekleşeceğini bilmiyorum. Yani yukarıdan uzaylılar gelip de bir kriz yaratabilir ya da çok farklı şeyler olabilir. Şu an sadece saçmalıyorum. Uzaylılar tabii ki gerçek değil ama yakın bir zamanda bir kriz bekliyorum ben ve bu kriz açıkçası dünya ekonomisi için çok yıkıcı olabilir eğer bu enflasyonla başarılı şekilde mücadele etmezsek. Peki Dirk, bu kriz hakkında ne düşünüyorsun? Bu kriz sence nasıl bir kriz olacak? 2006-2008 krizlerinden daha yüksek bir yıkımı olabilir mi? Bana kalırsa 2006-2008 krizleriyle aynı derecede olma potansiyeline çok sahip. Çünkü bildiğiniz üzere enflasyon 2008'in öncesinde bu kadar yüksek değildi. Aynı zamanda dünyadaki nasıl diyeyim para transferleri de aslında bu kadar yoktu. 2008 öncesinde yani mesela Afrika'daki bir insan şu an internet üzerinden çalışıp Amerika'daki bir insana işsizlik yaratabiliyor. Çünkü Amerika'dakinin yaptığı işi $100 işi mesela Afrika'daki bir insan $10 yapabiliyor. Bu da dünyanın aslında şekil değiştirdiğini gösteriyor. Ekonominin şekil değiştirdiğini gösteriyor ve bu şekil değiştirme esnasında tam bir depremde olduğu gibi çok fazla sarsıntı oluyor. Bu sarsıntılarda da çok fazla insan zarar görüyor. Bunu yaşamak zorundayız tabii ki. Günümüzün şartlarına da alışmak zorundayız. Ama bu gerçeği de kabullenmemiz gerekiyor ve ona göre adımlar atmamız gerekiyor. Ayrıca burada da söylemek istediğim, çünkü bunu da hatırlatmak istiyorum. Bence önümüzdeki dönemlerde 10-15 yıllık dönem içerisinde büyük göç dalgaları göreceğiz dünya içerisinde. Çünkü bazı ülkelerde, bazı şehirlerde özellikle yaşama maliyeti çok fazla. Ama bazı dünyanın bölgelerinde de yaşama maliyeti gerçekten uygun. Dolayısıyla bunun dengelenmesi gerekiyor. Ekonominin temel kurumu da, temel değeri de aslında dengedir. Bu dengeleme işlemi için ben bir göç olabileceğini düşünüyorum. Çünkü Amerika'daki bir insan, atıyorum mesela Türkiye'ye gelip burada çok daha rahat bir şekilde yaşayabilir ve aynı parayı kazanabilir. Bunu insanların göreceğini ve buna göre hareket edeceğini düşünüyorum ben. Şimdi burada isterseniz Bitcoin'e tekrar dönelim. Bitcoin'deki önümüzdeki vadeyi nasıl yorumluyorsun Dirk? Bunu bize anlatabilir misin? Bence açıkçası Bitcoin'de önümüzdeki sene içerisinde, yani 2024'ün Haziran ayına kadar çok fazla bir hareket görmeyeceğiz. Buralarda birazcık daha acı yaşamamız gerekiyor. Yani insanların birazcık daha düşüş yaşaması gerekiyor. Bunu anlatırken de bu bars tool'unu kullanmayı çok seviyorum. Burada gördüğünüz gibi şu kısmı buraya taşıdım ve bana açıkçası bu bile çok mantıklı geliyor. Böyle bir hareket görme ihtimalimiz gerçekten çok mümkün. Birazcık daha yükselebiliriz tabii, $40.000 kadar, $45.000 kadar. Daha sonrasında oradan bir düşüş daha yaşayıp son bir silkeleme ve son bir alım fırsatı sunabiliriz tüketicilere, Bitcoin alımı yapacak kişilere daha doğrusu. Ondan sonra da Bitcoin'deki bir boğa sezonu başlayabilir. Bana açıkçası mantıklı geliyor. Böyle bir şeyin de yaşanabileceğini düşünüyorum ben.
In Bitcoin. And I can assure you the FOMO is going to set in like crazy when we see that. And when exactly what you said just now is going to happen, we're going to dump. The question then is going to be, is the bottom going to be higher than the last bottom or lower? If it's lower, it's still a bear market, then I'm proven wrong. that's okay. Then I have to take the hit for that. But if the bottom is higher, so for example at 20 or 21,000 US dollars, then it's actually a higher low, meaning we are in a bull market. That is the definition of a trending bull market then. Yeah, something like this, exactly.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. Short term, I've been looking at this chart a lot. It looks to me like we're in one of these classic situations where we kind of, set a high, deviate above it, come back down.
Yeah.
And to me, this kind of looks like the same thing.
I was kind of waiting for that actually for like over a week now, for a little bit the pullback again into this area, 21,000, 20,500 US dollars. And I always said, if that happens, I want to build up a long position there because you have an extremely good risk reward ratio. You can put your stop like slightly under 20,000, but your upside is somewhere again then at 24, 25,000, maybe even 30,000. That's like the kind of trade actually I'm always looking for, where I can win multiple times or the money I have to risk for that trade. It's a trade I would do really every day because I only need to be successful like in 30% with it and I'm still going to earn money. However, it's a very difficult trade, of course, on a psychological level, especially if you are new to this whole trading circuit.
Let's zoom into that. That's really hard. When people ask me about, being a trader and things like that, and they're like, oh, you must be so busy. Like, you must be glued to your phone all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not like a little Forex scammer. So actually, no, my job is literally waiting my whole life.
Yeah.
And,
I still remember like very well when I started working at a trading desk. I think it was in the year 2000, actually. And my mentor back then told me always, Dirk, if you're not bored and waiting 75% of the time per day, you're doing something wrong.
That is powerful.
I don't want you to do the clickety-click action. I know that's fun. I know that's addicting, especially nowadays. You have all those nice apps, that kind of make you click.
They glorify it.
They glorify it. That's a good way to put it, actually. But it's like marketing strategy, of course. But anyway, and the hard part of it really is to stay patient and to wait for this one perfect setup that puts the odds more into your favor. And that's very hard. That's very boring. Still, after 25 years, this is sometimes hard for me. I remember last year we had a phase, especially in cryptocurrencies, where we just went sideways. I was like, came into my office, thought I have to trade something today. No. Don't do that. Don't do it. Do mistakes like this again.
Well, this is the thing is I think a lot of people, they come in here and they're like, okay, the more buttons I click, the more often I click buttons, the more often I analyze the charts, the more often I sit in front of my laptop, the more money I'm going to make. And, the argument I'm always making is, no, have your levels defined and wait for the levels to be broken. Have a plan for each situation, whether we go up or down. And if there's something, I'm sure you've read Market Wizards by Jack Schwager, similar
it's
quotes.
It's one of my favorite books, actually.
Same.
All of them. I mean, it's a whole series, no?
There's 4, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I've only read 2. Market Wizards and New Market Wizards, but there's this one specific quote which really gets very close to what you said, where it's like this dude is saying, I just kind of wait quietly until there's some money sitting in the corner of the room, and then I just go there and pick it up, and that's the day's work done. And
it sounds so simple, but it's so hard.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any job in this world where you are so quickly faced with your on a daily basis with your own character and your own mistakes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I describe it as trading is like having a permanent psychological war in your brain. And that's it. Yeah. And I think what's really compelling about this thing of you just go pick up some money in the corner of the room is it really strikes home just how much that you need to wait. There's no element of like a lot of people will, because here's the thing is when you take that kind of trading approach, if you compare this to somebody that trades much more actively, what they're going to be doing is making like 10% profit and then losing 8 is best case scenario, making 10, losing 8, making 11, losing 7, whereas the guy that just kind of waits will not make any money for like a 2-month period, but month 3 comes along, he's going to absolutely blow his account up with a really good trade, like this kind of swing trade that you mentioned earlier, 21K up to like 30, really good risk to reward. And then the guy that's just constantly clicking buttons, if you compare their accounts, again, assuming that guy that's more active as a trader is successful, which almost always won't be the case. If they are, you'll see that the guy that just waited because he didn't suffer as many losses and because the losses weren't as big and so on and so forth, many different reasons, he will come out ahead. And it's like, do you want success? We're recording this in February. Do you want success in March or do you want success in December? Do you want it to be transient or do you want it to stick around? And I think that's an approach that a lot of people don't take, because they join trading in order to, I mean, it's like a lottery ticket. It's like, they're kind of saying, like in the pandemic, everyone was just sitting at home. They're like, shit, okay, I want to make some more money at home. Let me just, download Robinhood, 0 fees, right? I'll just spam buy on GameStop or whatever.
Off to Wall Street bets,
yeah, exactly. The subreddit there, it's brilliant. Yeah, so you're looking at you're also looking at a bit of a liquidity grab where we maybe drop down from here, yeah?
Yeah, that would be the ideal scenario, really. Bitcoin now going down first, maybe 20.5, even 21,500. I'm for sure going to open a bigger buy position, then have my stop shortly under 20,000. Well, if it gets stopped out, it gets stopped out. That's part of the game. Still a trade. I would
just to zoom into that stop loss question. So I've got this box defined right here, 18.4 up to 19.6. For me, I wouldn't really want my stop loss to be anywhere in this range. I'd probably want it to be like below 18.4, which is very wide. I'm curious to know what you think of that, and if you'd place it differently, we can show you.
You never. So this is like really an important lesson that I learned many times the hard way. Never place your stop loss exactly at where support and resistance are at the moment, or support in this case of a long trade, because you have algorithms out there hunting for those prices. This leads to probably what everybody who's been trading for a bit longer has experienced before. You get stopped out, and then the market reverses into your original trade direction. This will happen and can happen. So I would always, like you just demonstrated, place my stop under the lowest support there. So in this case, 18,200 would make sense. Of course, when you gotta also kind of investigate, where do I enter the market? Is my risk-reward ratio still in a positive manner?
It gets very wide.
Positive for me, It gets very quick, very wide. The question, of course, then also is like, okay, if we go down there, are we going to follow through and go down to 16,000 again?
And that's exactly what trips traders up, right? It's like, you can commit to this plan when you've entered at 21, but it gets a lot scarier when we're actually at like 18.8, and you're thinking, well, shit, maybe we're revisiting the lows as well, because sentiment gets bad as well. That's something that I found is very... Go on.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of being a trader, that you constantly self-doubt yourself. I went through the same phase in the past 6 months again, when I started buying stocks, buying crypto again in late September, early October. Many times I questioned myself, my God, is my theory correct? Am I committing financial suicide here? Am I like really think so? Because when you constantly get like people telling you the exact opposite of your own bias, so to say, and many of those people being, in my opinion, much smarter than I am. Of course, you get self-doubt, but it's part of the game that you have to stick to your plan. Then you have a target and you have an exit strategy in case you're wrong.
Do you find that more often than not, if you just stick to your plan, you would have worked out okay, or that for most people? Because the way I talk about this is like, yes, you've got to stick to your plan, but your plan has to be really good.
That's the point. So of course you cannot just randomly come up with a plan. That's why I always, like, one of the first things when people ask me how to pick trades, I always like to give the example of, you need to treat trading like a business. When you run a shop and you sell, I don't know, something like shoes, for example, and maybe you see this nice sneaker model where you think like, oh, my clients really would love that. So you order a bunch of them, you put them on display, and well, suddenly nobody wants to buy them. What are you going to do? Are you going to cut your losses, or are you going to order more sneakers at a cheaper price in the hopes that somehow magically makes your customer buy them? And this is exactly what we see many times happening in trading. People do not commit to their stop loss. They add to the position. They want to bring their average price down or up, depending on which direction you're trading, in the hopes that, they somehow can get out of a position at break even and just forget about it and move on. And maybe that even works out, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But I can assure you there will be a trade in the future like this that will just kill your account.
Yep. Yeah.
It happened to me,
adding
and
to a losing.
I have to admit, not only once in the beginning.
Absolutely. No, it's very destructive. Adding to a losing position is for some people it's a strategy, but it's never worked out for me. It doesn't work out for most people, and I feel like when you start exhibiting behaviors like that, you're starting to slip into gambling as well. I think that's where it really starts to that's where it really starts to become a problem, is you start exhibiting those tendencies, and man, when you get in that hole, it's not easy to get out.
Yeah, when you start doing something like martingale or strategies like this, and it's a recipe for disaster. And I understand it's hard, especially as a beginner, because our brain is somehow also trained on getting rewards quickly. We want those rewards now, and we don't want them 3 months down the road.
Yeah, it's really interesting that way. And what we always find is your bigger players, like institutions and so on, we just use that as a blanket word, obviously, that they tend to make the right calls, whereas retail makes the wrong calls. What do you think is the difference between the two groups, where it always seems to be that retail are the ones that are impatient and institutions aren't?
If having been in institutional traders, you are constantly questioned there. Your boss will call you in if you're sitting on a losing position and ask you, Dirk, was your exit plan for this one? When are you going to cut your losses?
Does that apply unnecessary pressure?
It is. It applies pressure, and I don't know if it's unnecessary pressure. I think it's necessary pressure, because it forces you to not ignore your position, but to start rationalize your position. And then you have like colleagues, who you can talk with all the time. All of them, or most of them, being experts. It's just a different environment. The systems normally of hedge funds, of banks, they also force you that for every trade you take, if it's a directional trade, you have to have an exit strategy. You have to have a price target where you can multiple times earn what you're risking on that trade. It's more, in a way, they have better underlying processes that force you into this direction. And as a retail trader, even as a professional retail trader, it's very easy to ignore your own processes, because you become biased.
I liken it to being a pilot, where a pilot of hopefully any aircraft, but certainly a commercial aircraft, will never, ever, ever skip their pre-flight safety checks. Yeah, it's absolutely unthinkable. But
even something like, getting out of a plane, walking around the plane, to doing the side check, checking the tires. You should, if you fly next time, have a look at that. Even pilots, I don't know, flying the A380, they do that. You can see them walking around the plane.
Yep. And that's because they know it's their responsibility, but we don't see that following through with retail traders, because again, it's that lottery ticket mentality. I want to highlight two things that I kind of extracted from what you said, which is, number one, when you've got your superior kind of looking over your shoulder, constantly questioning everything you do. First of all, that one of the effects I'm gathering that would have is you're going to take yourself out of bad positions fairly quickly. You're going to be cutting your losses short. But second of all, after repeated practice of doing that, you probably just think a lot more carefully about which positions you take in the future as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's a bit like a coach, when you are a professional athlete, they all, most of them at least, they have coaches that are, even though they are already probably almost perfect at what they are doing, they are still having coaches that are questioning them or putting them into making sure that they are in the right mindset. And this is very much also what is going on there. See them not as your boss, that kind of wants to harass you and question you all the time. It's more like a coach that wants to ensure that you are at your peak performance. Because if you're not at your peak performance, you're going to lose money for the bank.
Do you think it would be beneficial for retail traders to somehow get that kind of experience for themselves and then go back to...
If possible, one-on-one coaching. I mean, that is expensive, obviously. Nobody can afford that. But in a nutshell, this is what I'm trying to do with the Prime XPT Trading Academy, to kind of offer guidance on how I, as somebody who does this for a living, is approaching the markets.
Okay, so tell me about that. Just before you do it, because I want to know a little bit more about that. I want to highlight to you guys that so Prime XBT is one of the as far as I know only exchanges that kind of works with crypto, but allows you to trade indices like the S&P 500, commodities like gold, silver, and oil, and forex all in one place. And that's with a Bitcoin deposit. It's a really cool offer, and you've seen the thing on screen, 7K bonus. Whatever you deposit, you're getting 7% back as a bonus. That's basically free trading money. If you make money with it, you can withdraw those profits. If you don't, consider it like a demo account, works in the same way.
Yeah.
Very cool offer. And I want to know from you, Dirk, right here. This is you, right?
That's me. Yeah.
What do you what's the deal with the Prime XBT Trading Academy? Tell me a little bit about that, how that works, how viewers can benefit from that, and so on.
Yeah. Well, it's a funny story, you know. Actually, I started as a client at Prime XBT in 2019 when I decided I just want to trade my own portfolio. I don't want to earn money for others anymore. I traded crypto with Prime XBT, my crypto portfolio, and eventually they approached me, told me, "Hey, you're quite successful in what we are doing. We're thinking of building up an academy that where you can teach our clients, you know, not to walk into all those beginner traps that linger out there and that make people lose money." And I thought to myself, it's kind of cool, you know, because being a trader by yourself can get very lonely. You sit in front of your charts all day, you know, talking so much to anybody, and everybody likes to talk about things they're passionate about. So now I get to trade and I get to talk about trading, and I hopefully can do something good by showing people which mistakes to avoid, especially in the beginning of their trading career. And so that's very nice. And over time, this has really developed into quite a big project. I remember like 2 years ago when I started it, you know, I was like doing little YouTube streams here and there. And since then, I think it has really become quite a professional project. And I'm always very happy when I get feedback from people telling me, wow, what you're doing there and on this video or that video and in your live stream, that really helped me to avoid losing money. Yeah,
so that's the most important thing. Yeah. What's the main content format that you're putting forward then that Prime XBT users can benefit from?
I try to focus on things that are always relevant. At the beginning, I talked very much about beginner mistakes and how to avoid them. I'm obviously doing like market outlooks if there are interesting things to talk about, like the golden cross and Bitcoin yesterday. We try to cover important economic data releases. Sometimes we trade them if I have an opinion about it. We did this I think in November on inflation data. Because a lot of people are interested, obviously, in news trading. And in a nutshell, really everything that comes to my mind that could be in the current market situation relevant to avoid losing money. This is the point. It's not something I show you how to win big. I want to show you how, as a first step, to avoid losing money. And if you're able to do that, then you can build upon that and start earning money.
We have so many parallels in our style. That's the first thing that I teach traders as well, is I actually talk about the difference between, like, you know, you lose 50%, got to make back 100, lose 90%, got to make back like 999%, something stupid, to break even. That's absolutely the most critical step. And so from what you're talking about, it sounds like you're applying key theories, strategies, important things to keep in mind within a real-time context, like within what's actually going on right now in the market. So that's very.
I think you need to do that. You know, there's more than enough theoretical content out there, in my opinion, on YouTube or on social media in general. But what is lacking very often is like to put that into a realistic context. Okay, I'm going to show you what I just taught you in theory, how to apply that in reality onto the market. So very often I'm actually taking the trades also live. So people can see this guy, you know, he puts his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, it sounds really, really cool. I like that a lot. Cool. And one of the big things that I want to move back to what I said a minute ago about like losing money and so on is you know, I've coached a lot of traders as well, and what I've found is the people that come for coaching a lot of the time, the very smart ones will come before they start trading. Bless them, they're the angels. But But a lot of the time, the ones that come, they're like, you know, I've already lost a lot of money. I don't know what to do. And what I find is they've got this holy grail achievement of like, I just need to break even. You know, and my take is, no, you start with your current balance and this is it. You know, and now you're looking to, you know, with stability, with sustainability, rise, let that account balance rise up, and that's your start. You know, and if you get back up to break even, great. But we're forgetting that original starting value now. You're starting with this, and anything other than that, as far as a mentality goes, is toxic and it will result in losses. Do you ever talk about stuff like that? Do you have a particular take on that?
Yeah, and I always like to tell people that's like money they paid for their education upfront now, the money they lost. And but I think it's also important to mention that it's normal. I don't know anybody who became a professional trader and successful first try. Everybody who has been doing this for a while will tell you, oh my God, you don't know how often I tanked my account before I finally understood it, how it's done, you know?
How many times, if ever, did you completely blow up your account?
Oh, at least 5 to 6 times. At least 5 to 6 times, yeah. In the very
I'm only
beginning.
at 3. Does that mean I have more?
Well, I hope you're staying at 3.
Yeah, but it's standard though.
Huh? Sorry?
It's standard. Everyone goes through it.
It's standard. I mean, the difference is then, are you doing that with all of your money, or are you maybe just partially using the money? That's another lesson, you know, that it's important in the beginning to learn. If you have like, I don't know, like 10K for trading, maybe in the beginning don't use 10K, maybe use 1,000K, because you're likely going to pay some money up front.
And that's actually where the Prime XPT bonus comes in really handy, because you know, a lot of people, they love the idea of playing with demo accounts, but then you know, you actually make some money and you're like, shit, I wish that was real money. But bam, it's on a silver platter for you. You know, go grab it.
The thing with demo accounts, in my opinion, is, I mean, I'm happy that there are demo accounts available with some brokers out there, and I can see that it makes sense. But it fails to teach you one important lesson: the adrenaline rush you get when you're trading with your own money. The adrenaline, like the euphoria when you are right with your positioning and when your take profit is hit, and when you suddenly feel like a god, like, you know, oh, I've cracked the markets now, I'm invincible, I'm going to be a millionaire in 3 weeks down the road. And also the total fear and hopelessness and loneliness when you either blow your account and maybe you have a series of mistrades, even like maybe 3 or 4 mistrades in a row, when you start questioning yourself. And maybe when you start, oh, maybe I should change this and that and this crack and nanny about in my trading system.
Yeah, you can't. I'm a very strong believer in there should be no space for happiness or sadness as a trader. You know, like if I find myself in a position that makes me a lot of money and I'm like more than 5% happy, that's a problem. You know, like that means I should be no more than 0% happy. I should be completely neutral throughout all of it, because if it's any sort of emotional reaction, that means I can get screwed on the other side of it too. And I found that the best way to insulate yourself from that kind of issue is just trading with less money.
Yeah. I mean, this is where leverage comes in also, no? That you can... Leverage is very often seen as like a tool for gambling, when in my opinion, it's more of a risk management tool you can apply. Because if let's say you normally would trade a 10K account, but in order to trade this 10K account, you can just deposit, for example, 1K or even less and still trade it as a 10K account. But it will ensure that if you do something wrong or something stupid, that you only lose 1K or 500 US dollars instead of your 10K. And just because there is a leverage of 1 to 200 or 1 to 1,000 even doesn't mean you always have to use it.
No. Again, just tools. It's nice that we can go up to it, but obviously we don't want to max it out. Dirk, if you have more time, I want to go back to your charts and go back to inflation. Sure. I think this is really interesting. Let's throw your chart back on, and I just want to hear your full thoughts. If you haven't managed to share anything else yet on this, on the macroeconomic climate and how this might impact crypto. I'm very interested in it. My take is that. In interest rates and inflation and all that, I don't pretend to know what I'm talking about, but I feel that as soon as this kind of reaches an environment where people are, you know, more willing to spend money in the economy again and so on, you know, in some meaningful way, like what we had in the last few years, especially like with the stimmy checks and all that in the US, you know, that's where we might start looking at, you know, stock prices picking up, indices like the S&P 500 rising up, and then obviously people just deciding that they want to be in risk on assets a little bit more. And obviously, you know, there's a lot that falls under the risk on umbrella, but I'm talking specifically in the crypto domain where, you know, people have to really be feeling some level of greed to be investing in crypto, and more specifically than that, to go from Bitcoin into the smaller coins, because that's what we generally see Bitcoin blow up first, and then, okay, you feel smart, you feel like you made a lot of money, let's throw some money into the next shitcoin now, and then, you know, it turns into NFTs or whatever when the euphoria gets a little bit too high. But if we kind of zoom out and just look at like the real things that matter, let's look at this chart again. It's really, really interesting because it looks like this is a real setup for inflation rates to just keep dropping, just as they've done the previous 4 times.
I think it is. So there's, in my opinion, there's like one missing ingredient still, and what normally you will see in an inflationary environment like this is that inflation needs to drop below the interest, the Fed interest rates, in order for the Fed to consider lowering the interest rates or keeping them stable at least. And I think we're going to see this, if we're lucky, already in Q2 2023. I expect it more in Q3 2023, so sometime after June 30th. In the third quarter, this needs to happen first. I'm a bit surprised that we already saw the strong moves we saw on the stock markets. I expected more of a boring sideways move first. Like normally you have this phase of apathy, I think it's called in English.
Apathy,
apathy, especially in cryptocurrencies when nobody's really caring anymore, you know. Okay, that is over. I don't want to read about that anymore. I don't want to watch videos about this anymore, and so on and so forth. So that is kind of missing. Maybe something is going to happen, that we are going to see this phase now in the second quarter of 2023. I don't know, but the setup is inflation is coming down. I also don't see like so huge moves in commodities and so on that would cause inflation to bounce up again very high. Maybe eventually we will see something like we saw in the past as well. So something like this, you know, where inflation went down, looks a lot like what we are seeing right now, actually, no. And then we have a couple of months where it's coming up again. Everybody will panic. The stock market will go down again. Look what happened here. You know, we had a correction to the downside. This could be something that is happening, but the overall narrative is still positive for this year. And if I look at the job market in the USA, that's so super strong. I don't see the signs for recession there, really. I would be very surprised to see a massive recession, for example, in the USA.
That's something I was... Go on.
Yeah, no, it's really, I know I'm trying to put it into simple words, because I also don't want to bore you with too much economic stuff here. But history repeats itself, as I said in the beginning, and I don't see why it should be different. And of course, that doesn't mean like that the stock market is now S&P 500 is going in a straight line to 5,000. Doesn't mean that, like we said earlier, Bitcoin is going in a straight line to a new all-time high in the upcoming months. There will be volatility. There will be massive volatility on the stock markets. I could see something like S&P 500 rising to 4,400 very, very soon, just to go down then to 4,000, which is a correction of 10%, and people will start panicking again. It always moves like this. This are the waves. That's why I say it's so important to zoom out a little bit and to see the whole picture. As long as the economy is growing, the markets will over time tend to go up. By the way, I also think it's a bad trading strategy to bet on crashes. It's the kind of trading strategy that works out every couple of years. So, for example, like in 2008, it would have worked out obviously last year. But you always pay like for 10 years of growth that you are missing on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, another easy way to visualize that is, you've got unlimited upside if you're trading the upside, and quite a capped downside as well, which does make it quite dangerous. And also, you're just looking at a different trading environment. It's just harder. The traders are better when there's no new fresh blood in the markets and so on, and that makes it a little bit challenging as well. I wanna get your thoughts on the dollar index chart. Is that something that you look at?
Yeah, sure. Actually, that was last year one of my best trades that I have. Let me quickly switch back here. Where I have the XY. Here we go.
And I just very quickly, I just want to focus on the range that's basically in our most recent consolidation right before the quick little flash dip and then the rocket up. Like this range right here has been important for decades. Do you think this is significant as well? And also tell me a little bit about what you were thinking.
It is significant, and it's kind of interesting also, in my opinion, because last year I always had like one of my best trades, at least until September, October, was keeping cash in US dollar and not in euro, because that appreciated by like just by keeping the cash, it appreciated by like 20%. Because I think in euro, obviously, because I'm living in Germany, in Berlin, so that was a massively good trade. What you'll very often see here, and that is kind of true in the US dollar, is that it kind of those moving averages here. So this the blue one is the 50 days moving average. That there is always going to be some price action on it. It's probably going to deflect from there now and maybe do a new low, which would then, by the way, also confirm my theory that the stock market is going up, because a weaker US dollar means money flowing into risk-on assets.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never like to celebrate, things like the US dollar crashing, because that's not good for Americans holding dollars. But it's a promising sign as a speculative investor and trader. Because this blue moving average line, this looks pretty promising. Which moving average is it? The blue one?
It's for 50 days.
50. Okay, yeah. Can we zoom out and look at the interactions with it? Because it looks fairly consistent. We're getting look at that. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of that's why this trade also was for me so beautiful. Just like speaking from technical terms, because in 2022 it aligns so well always with the higher low. So the definition here of a bull market, so to say, of a stronger US dollar in this case. We had this year that was really, I don't want to say an easy trade, because there's nothing that is really easy when it comes to trading, but it gave really a good indication, and it also gave the indication, maybe not this one, because that was obviously fake out, but once we really went down on it, okay, seems like the dollar bull market, the strong times of strong US dollar are over at the moment. And now we see maybe the same pattern forming for a US dollar bear market. So going down, then the moving average moving like this, going up again, respecting it as a form of resistance, zone of resistance, going down again.
So two things here. I'd like to see how the dollar has interacted with this line in a bear market, so to speak, and also just get your thoughts on, if we zoom out and look at this more on the weekly, monthly time frame. The only thing I'm worried about here is this kind of looks like a correction for the dollar. Yeah, like taking a look at this, it would also make a good amount of sense that this is, in my opinion, a very healthy correction considering how strong the dollar was between 2021 and the end of last year. A great, like what I was saying in one of my recent videos is if you're a bull for the dollar, this correction is what you want to see. Yeah. Let's start with the latter one first, and then look at the blue moving average line in a downtrend.
Let's start with what?
Let's start with tackling if this is a pullback within a wider uptrend for the dollar.
It could be. I mean, it's by the nature of US dollar. We're talking about currencies. You'll not really have trending moves, except you are like some country which economy is getting worse and worse and worse. Something like Argentina or Nigeria or something like this. In general, you'll have these broad ranges. You can see that very well in the US dollar. So it's not like, analyzing stocks or cryptocurrencies where you have trends always to the upside.
So we're looking at more likely tagging something like 70, 80, and then
yeah, I would maybe like for a start, not immediately. So this is also long time frame, something down here at 96, potentially even down to 90. But that if we see that this year, honestly speaking, that would kind of surprise me, because that would be a huge move.
Yeah.
If we translate that like to euro dollar, we very quickly might see euro dollar at 120 or something like this again.
And that would that just mean, you know, very low interest rates again? Is that the only thing that could put us there?
Yeah, exactly. That would be the case then, that we are either seeing higher interest rates in the eurozone than in the US dollar, because when the money is flowing into the euro. I mean, the economic movements behind those currencies are always like, the US dollar is, for example, getting stronger because institutional players are buying US Treasury bonds, which are denominated obviously in US dollar. So there's a demand for the US dollar. They need to sell their local currency, euro, for example, and buy the US dollar. This normally this goes into the direction where the interest rates are higher. At the moment, interest rates are higher in the USA than in the eurozone. Especially last year, the eurozone was kind of lacking in putting up the interest rates behind the US dollar. That's why we saw such a strong US dollar there. And now maybe the trend is turning around a little bit.
Very interesting. That's
if you're trading currencies, it's like really you really have to. At least if you're scalping, of course not, but if you are looking for like longer term swing trades, you have to take into account the interest rate environment always.
Yeah, that's good information. I haven't looked at it from this perspective yet about. To be honest, it's kind of obvious now that you've said it. You know, like we're not expecting the dollar to stay trending for a huge amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, see it like if you are running, if you're a very large institutional player, for example, a pension fund, you are of course forced not to so much speculate with the money that is, because it's there for pensions, obviously. So you're restricted in what you can buy. So pensions funds like to buy treasury bonds because they get a fixed interest rate every year. And what they are doing, they are looking, where do I get the highest interest rate at the moment for the lowest risk? Oh, wow, I get like 5% in the USA at the moment. And well, you know, the US economy, the US taxpayers can be considered as a strong country, as a or AAA country. Yeah, we can discuss if that is still true and not. Of course, I'm generalizing now a lot. So yeah, you go and to your bank, say, hey, we need to buy like 100 million in US Treasury bonds. Oh, and we need to exchange our euros. So boom, you have an order then the market. I sell euro, buy a US dollar worth 100 million euro. This is driving demand then for the US dollar. And this, we see the reverse effects of that now happening as money seems to be flowing back into other economies.
That's huge. Thank you for that, Dirk. You've taught me something very interesting today.
You are welcome. It's like I'm very heavy trader in currency options. That's why I have to have thoughts like this every day.
Yeah, I like that, man. Let's round this off then. Let's take a look at the blue moving average as well. This over the last decade or so doesn't look like we've really had a particularly strong downtrend environment, so it's hard to say. Yeah,
if you look at, I'm like zooming out, like all the way interesting here in early 80s. We peaked here at 165. Never zoomed out that far on the weekly, to be honest. But you can kind of see what I mean. No? It's like you have this actually a sideways move. Yeah, sometimes.
No, it is more or less. Yeah, just trending downwards across.
Yeah, sometimes other currencies are stronger than the US dollar. Sometimes the US dollar is stronger than other currencies.
Okay, man, I have to ask you while you're here. I forgot the news. You're going to know it. Like, oil-rich countries no longer dealing in the dollar or not wanting to.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's what could play a part in seeing a decline here?
Yeah, I actually not long ago read a piece of paper on that. I don't remember who wrote it. I have to check on that, saying like we are probably going to see the formation of like like you said just now, oil-rich countries forming like their own currency that is then going to be used to pay for oil because they don't want to be dependent on the US dollar anymore. Of course, if you are, I don't know, like a country, I'm just taking Argentina. They are not like super oil-rich, but just as a bad example, actually, that see that their currency is always devaluing versus the US dollar, you kind of don't want to always have to go and buy US dollar. Yeah. So, because you're going to pay more and more and more on your local currency for it. That's why that totally makes sense. Maybe we're also going to see the Chinese somehow mingle in that to push their own currency. I was
thinking about BRICS. Yeah. When I mentioned that, that's what I was. Yeah. And do you feel like overall, I don't know if this is like down the kind of avenue that you think about, but do you feel like overall there are more factors weighing towards the US dollar just having overall less demand over the next decades, over the next years, or that, we're just more or less looking at a fluctuation, like it's just headlines, people are talking, but no real change?
I don't know. But so first of all, like these headlines, like currencies that can compete with the US dollar on when it comes to international settlement of commodity prices, oil, and so on and so forth, that has been around since I can think, since I started my career 25 years ago. As always, maybe we're looking at long-term trends here. It's for sure nothing where I would now bet money on, because this is really like long term. I mean, also funny enough, back then when I started 25 years ago, every year people were proclaiming that the USA are going to collapse the US economy is going to collapse, and that the US dollar is going to lose its power, its worldwide power, and somehow it never happened. So
a lot of people love, I don't know, it's like people have this like zombie survival fetish, and it's like the same kind of thing here, where they just get off on talking about total economic collapse, especially for like the United States. It's just a romantic idea.
It's a romantic idea, is a nice way to put it. And of course, it's like a nice selling headline, no? If you propose something like this, you sell it, and maybe you are then same like saying, oh, the S&P 500 is going to crash tomorrow by 40%, and you keep on repeating yourself every day. Eventually, you're going to be right, and then everybody's going to write, this is the guy who predicted the crash of the stock market. He's the guru. And by the way, he has this nice book he just wrote. Coincidentally, he wants to sell to you.
That's the model, man.
This is how marketing works.
Internet money. Cool. Dirk, this has been great. Do you have anything else you want to add on here?
Yeah, I have my mantra I always like to repeat every time I end a video or end a stream. No matter what you're doing out there trading-wise, it's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the game. I may make mistakes on a daily level, even after 25 years. Important that you admit towards yourself that you made a mistake and learn from it. I do keep a journal. It's definitely part of my must go-to, because it puts things into perspective. I mean, it's like, I think something, we probably could talk another 45 minutes about, and maybe we should in the future. But whatever you are doing, always remember to use a stop loss, please.
Yep, manage your risk. Perfect. I love that. So guys, Dirk heads up the education side of Prime XBT. He's got a lot of amazing content there. It actually kind of sounds like it's in line with the content that I'm putting out as well. So if you've made it this far, you're going to know the deal. Go check it out. And with what you're seeing down below, you are getting up to 7K in trading bonuses as well with Prime XBT. It's a huge offer. It is a platform that you can use to trade indices, commodities, and Forex alongside crypto, which makes it OP as far as I'm concerned. That's pretty damn cool. And I have loved them for that for multiple years. I've used them for multiple years. No issues of like funds and security and all that. As well, so that's obviously good, standing the test of time as well. If you guys want to check it out, all the links are right down below. Dirk, thank you so much. I think we should do something else. Let's organize that. We'll see what the viewers think. If you guys want me to do something else, guys, do me a favor. Drop it in the comments down below. You already know the deal. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Check out the links for Prime XBT and Dirk down below as well.
Eğer beğendiyseniz kanala abone olup videoya like atmayı unutmayın.
Thanks for having me here, and take care everybody.
Arkadaşlar, görüşürüz. Bye bye.